Hello, my soul-seeking friends. It's Shanna. Thank you so much for listening to Sense of Soul podcast. Enlightening conversations with like-minded souls from around the world, sharing their journey of finding their light within, turning pain into purpose, and awakening to their true sense of soul. If you like what you hear, show me some love and rate, like, and subscribe. And consider becoming a Sense of Soul Patreon member, where you will get ad-free episodes, monthly circles, and much more. Now go grab your coffee, open your mind, heart, and soul. It's time to awaken. Today with us, we have Craig Goldberg. He's a relaxation expert and technologist. He is a vibroacoustic therapy practitioner on a quest to help humanity achieve a deeper sense of inner calmness through the use of sound and vibration technology. And he's the co-founder of In Harmony meditation tools that are based on sound, vibration, and frequency, which I cannot wait to learn more about. So thank you so much, Craig, for being with me today. Tell us, where are you at?
My absolute pleasure. Well, I'm located physically in Las Vegas, Nevada. I've been here for 4 years with my amazing wife, who works at a project here called Area 15 and Meow Wolf. There's another one in Denver as well. So we've had some beautiful access to some incredible things here in Las Vegas. A whole lot of light workers here, a whole lot of good things happening in the spiritual world and in our world. And I've been heading up or sitting at the helm of In Harmony Interactive for the last 6+ years, making vibroacoustic therapy, technology, and furniture, which is a mouthful. Vibroacoustic therapy is a formal body of research that goes back 40+ years. It was originated by a guy by the name of Olav Skill in the late 1970s. And it basically studies specific frequencies and their impact on our physiology, on our anatomy, on our neurology. And it's really focused around 30 hertz to 120 hertz. And we can dive into that a little bit deeper. But vibroacoustic therapy simply means vibration, acoustic, sound. So it's vibration and sound and its impact on our physiology. And as we were talking about before we hit record here, vibration is everything. And we could talk about exactly what that means, but it runs deep into our spirit, deep into our soul, deep into our physical body, and certainly into our history as humans and as existing here on this earth plane as well.
You know, I find it to be so funny that this is not a subject in school.
Are you really that surprised?
Well, no, but I would absolutely advocate for this.
I have a 3-year-old daughter,
yeah.
Right? And she loves my tech. She's on her meditation cushion probably 3-4 times a week. She's on the sound lounge probably 3-4 times a week. She has access to it. It's right in my healing room here at the house. She's playing on the other side of that door with her nanny. And she'll grab me and she'll say, "Daddy, set me up on a sound lounge." Not those exact words, but it's usually something along like, "Daddy, meditate. I want to meditate." Like I know exactly what she means. And she's using, our tech. It's amazing to watch. Check out my Instagram. There's pictures of her on the tech all the time.
Oh my God. You're kidding me. Oh my God. I love that. I love these younger generations because they're growing up in a different world than we did. So, and, literally it took me until my late 30s to figure out that I was more than a meat suit, that I actually was an energetic body.
Yep.
And so can you share with me how you got to that place?
Totally. 2012 was a big year for a lot of different awakenings on a lot of different calendars, continents, universes, you name it. But there was a lot of waking up that happened in the spiritual world. And for us, it was no different. My wife and I went to Burning Man and had a Burning Man experience. We've now been going for 10 years. Absolutely fell in love with it. And through that, we also sat plant medicine. I've been using plant medicine I'm 44 years old. I think I had my first plant medicine experience, not including cannabis. I think cannabis when I was 13. I think I had my first psilocybin experience when I was 14 or 15. I mean, I was young, 16 maybe. So awakening from there, I didn't realize I didn't know what I didn't know at the time. And 2012 rolled around. My wife got sick. Doc after doc, nobody could tell us what was wrong. We began searching for answers. We landed on diet and nutrition. We landed on better understanding of what we put in our mouth, what we put in our skin, and what we keep in the air around us. And we began sharing what we learned. We were pretty disgusted with what we had found. You had mentioned that these kids, my 3-year-old particularly, is growing up in a different time. We grew up in a much different time, you and I. It was just different in so many different ways. Before 1996, there was no genetically modified food. So, do you remember Entenmann's chocolate chip cookies?
Oh yeah.
I used to pound 3/4 of a box after school. I would literally come home after school at 3:00. I would watch DuckTales into Saved by the Bell, and I would literally just drink whole milk, whole milk, dip them, eat them mindlessly, staring at the television, right, for 45 minutes to an hour. And then I would go outside and I would play until it got dark out, until I had to come back. I left my house. My mom had no idea where I was. There was no tracking. There was no like call me. I remember when I pitched my parents on getting a beeper. And I was like, no, I swear I'll call you every time you page me.
Right.
And I never had quarters. They were like, call, collect.
You
we
came
don't care.
home when the lamppost went on.
That's right. Or I was never allowed to go far enough away from the house that I couldn't hear my mother's voice.
Great. Yeah.
Luckily, she could scream and I could hear it for like the entire neighborhood. But like when she called my name, I came home. It was wild, right?
So true.
I don't let my daughter go in the front yard without me being out there.
Dude, same. So
right.
weird.
So like we really grew up in a different time. And really, look, I grew up eating Frosted Flakes and Cinnamon Toast Crunch and
Fruity Pebbles.
It was different food then. It didn't have the crap in it that it has today. Back then, don't get me wrong, it had a ton of sugar, and I'm sure there was enriched flour, but it wasn't the same chemicals that they're using today. It wasn't the same gluten and glyphosate levels and all these different things. So anyway, my wife gets sick. We fall into really digging into the research of what we put in our mouth, like everything. We knew every ingredient. We looked it up, its origin, where it came from, gum, like all these different things that are in our food today. We wanted to know where they came from, and we were just disgusted with what we found. Forget about genetically modified food and how they genetically modify our food. It's disturbing, to say the least. And then my wife basically said, well, I wonder what's in my facial products and my beauty products. And that was a rabbit hole that she dove down, parabens and all sorts of different chemicals that they put, preservatives that they put in there. It's just absolutely wild. So we are a product of what we put in our mouth, what we put on our skin, and what we allow to be kept in the air around us. That's how this vessel interacts with the world around it. And my wife and I went on a quest to just detoxify our environments as best we can. And this was 10 years ago. Other people started taking note. What are you doing? How are you doing it? We started a blog. We started, you just start sharing and educating. And our friends would come over and they would see all the things we were doing, right? So we learned about essential oils. Now we're traveling the country teaching about essential oils. And the whole time I'm going towards these sound therapists. I'm going towards these sound baths. We would go to yoga retreats so that we could teach on essential oils. And I would go to the sound bath so that I didn't know what was happening. I knew that I laid in front of this amazing gong, bowl, didgeridoo, acoustic instrument with this angel playing. And I woke up 45 minutes later feeling absolutely fantastic. I felt like I could shed the world. I felt like I was a new man in so many different ways. And I wanted it on tap. Like I wanted it when I wanted it, And I'm an audiophile. I like good sound. I've always had a great stereo system. So sitting in my house, I bought a gong CD. I arranged all my speakers around me. I'm starfished out. And I'm trying to recreate this sound therapy experience on tap. And it turns out I was using the wrong technology. The technology we use is something called a tactile transducer. It's a fancy word for saying half of a speaker. It takes in speaker cable and speaker wire. And this is what's actually in our technology and against your skin, in our furniture and against your skin. So this device right here translates 200 hertz down to 20 hertz into vibration and transfers that vibration directly to your body. So in our sound lounge, our practitioner and our meditation cushion, you are quite literally feeling the same frequencies that you are hearing. And I fell in love with this technology in more ways than one. I love it for myself. I love it for my family. My wife loved it. And when I find something I like, I don't know about you, I got a big mouth. And people ask me questions and like, what are you doing? And I tell people I'm 44 and they're like, you don't look 44. Like, what are you doing? And I'm like, well, I'm trying to manage my stress as best I can and keep myself cool, calm, and collected as often as possible. And vibroacoustic therapy does just that.
Wow. That's the relaxation expert.
Well, so then you start talking about like, how do you explain what this is? Right? Like, how do you explain a vibroacoustic therapy session? Well, you're laying on a bed, you're listening to music. I can tell you it creates this 3-dimensional, fully immersive sound experience, and that's all wonderful. But like, how is that relative to the person that's listening to my voice right now? And here's how it's relative. It is the most relaxed I ever feel is when I'm laying on my tech or have just gotten off it. The vibrations literally soothe your soul, your spirit, your physical body. The vibrations literally send messages to every muscle in your body telling you to relax. So if you're it's antispasmodic. So if you have a twitch, if you have a muscle spasm, if you have muscles that are tightened around an old injury that just haven't loosened up, one session on vibroacoustic therapy might be all you need to relax the muscles. If the stimuli is still there, your muscles are going to contract again. If the stimuli isn't there, those muscles are relaxed and you've got your range of motion back again. It decreases recovery time. It increases lymphatic drainage. It resets the nervous system from sympathetic, otherwise known as stress and anxiety or fight or flight, to parasympathetic, otherwise known as calm and relaxed. So this technology, I absolutely fell in love with and got enamored with the 40 plus years of science and research that backs up all of the statements and comments that I'm making right now. And I became enamored with how simple it is and how good it feels. I think.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, like, in the biohacking world, often the things that are really good for us, I think of cold therapy, I think of hot therapy, I think of working out, right? Working out feels great, but in the moment, like I get that it's fun and I enjoy it. And absolutely, I like lifting heavy things and seeing what I'm capable of, but like getting into a cold, like 57-degree water, and that's not even like what everybody's posting. Everybody's posting like 38 degrees, 33 degrees, 31 degrees. They're cracking ice on the surface. When I do cold therapy, I'm in 57-degree water, and it's still not fun. But laying on the sound lounge, oh, you bliss out. It's a magic carpet ride. It feels amazing.
I can't wait to do this. I'm curious, your wife, I had very similar. Well, I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia because they didn't have, a real diagnosis. And so that's kind of like what they put everything under. And, and it's so funny because when I go to the doctor, even now, it's still on my chart. Like I haven't had symptoms of fibromyalgia in like 10 plus years.
Awesome.
And, but it is true, even with COVID. I mean, I've had COVID 4 times, but every time I would have a conversation like this, all of a sudden I'd feel better. And so it's like the higher you raise your vibe, of course, the more you're going to be less susceptible to any of those things in the first place. But then, you feel better. But it's interesting. You mentioned, I don't recall how you mentioned this, but you said your voice, people are listening to your voice. Our voices, this is all frequency and vibration.
Oh, yeah.
It's so interesting how someone maybe doesn't think about this or is conscious about this, but yet never doubts the fact that you and I can see each other perfectly fine right now. We don't know how it's happening, but we don't question it. We watch television. I can see the sweat on a freaking football player, but yet we don't question these things. But yet we question the fact that maybe, something like vibration or sound healing could be as effective as some drug that you might take.
Not to mention the side effects and all of the possibilities of what impact that could have outside of simply treating a symptom, which it often is. Right. Yeah. And bless the medical world. I love it. I slip and fall. I break my arm, take me to the hospital. We're not pouring essential oils on it. We're going to a doctor, resetting the bone and doing all the amazing things that we can do in modern medicine. And I think from a reactive standpoint, I think our medical system is really fantastic for acute injuries and that sort of thing. I think it's wonderful. Look, even diagnosing chronic ailments and issues and identifying what those symptoms are but then they start to fall short when you have to treat those symptoms. And fibromyalgia, autoimmune diseases, I mean, the numbers are staggering as to where they've come since we were kids.
Autism, also neurological.
Remarkable, right? And what most doctors are not looking at is diet and nutrition.
Diet.
For my wife, by the way, it was gluten. We removed gluten from her diet, and within 72 hours, all of her symptoms went away. 6 months of testing, 6 months of going from specialist to specialist, doc to doc. Nobody could tell us what was wrong. We took gluten away for 72 hours, and all of her symptoms went away.
And you hear that over and over.
Yeah, and fibromyalgia, I mean, dairy and gluten is one of the first things that I would recommend somebody that's working through those symptoms. It's like, hey, it's going on from an inflammatory standpoint. We have nervous systems that are often misfiring and mistriggering. And that happens for a variety of different reasons, kind of different for everybody. But a lot of times our nervous systems are dysregulated. They're just not working the way that they were designed to work because of either external stimuli or something we're doing on a regular basis. And this goes back to what Ipek and I, my wife and I, found through Go Zulu Inc. And these three main environments: what we put in our mouth, what we put on our skin, what we keep in the air around us. Oftentimes, so we used to do these environmental assessments. And for 7 days, every hour, I would have you write down what you put in your mouth, what you put on your skin, and where you were sitting physically for the last 60 minutes. So it was a timer that we'd set on your watch or your phone or something like that. And it's like, hey, every hour, I just want you to, for 7 days, I know it's a pain, but what we'll start to see is environmental trends, because we would see things like, oh, so tell me about this armchair that you're sitting in. Oh, it's my grandfather's armchair, right? And it had mold in it, right? Like they would spend, you're reading a lot of books. You're sitting in this armchair. Tell me about this armchair. Or they're sitting in front of an air conditioning unit that had a freon leak, or, or was pulling something, right? Like it was all of these different things that we just don't think about that have to do with our environment, that has to do with how external factors get into our bodies. And all of a sudden you start to look at these trends and you start to pick up on what could be these possible issues that you're pulling out, right? Yeah. And then you can start to identify where these environmental threats are coming from and make change.
Listen to this. This is so crazy that we're talking about this. I get an email from my kid's school. So I have kids from 25 to 11. So my 11-year-old, elementary school, 5th grade. Our Governor Polis, had made a law that all schools be tested for lead in their water and whatnot. So even though we do live in one of the more newer districts, it's still old. Some of the schools are still old. My daughter actually goes to one. So out of like 86 places that they tested, like 15 places showed lead. It was in the water. It was in the drinking fountains. I was like, whoa. So they suggest you go get your child, tested for lead poisoning, and which causes neurological issues.
All sorts of issues.
Yeah. And they're growing. So it's for children at that age. So, right. And this is also very strange. So right now they're only testing elementary schools and daycares. And then next year, or by November 2024, they would get to the middle schools and then the high schoolers.
How many parents are like, test my school now, sending their kids to be tested now? Like,
I mean, you wonder why we have so many, neurological issues like autism and maybe ADHD and all of these things, because we don't have a clue what we're putting in our body or what we're surrounded by in our environment, which changes our DNA, right?
Chances are it's just changing the way your genes are expressing themselves. So you're familiar with genetics or epigenetic, right? Genetics is your actual DNA and how it's sequenced, the proteins and how they're sequenced. And epigenetics is basically nature, the conversation of nature versus nurture, the environment that you're in versus what you were dealt, the hand that you were dealt. And we can absolutely turn on the expression of these genes. Some would argue that you can change your genes without getting into machines like the CRISPR and things like that. It's really interesting when you start to dig in and take a look at just how capable we are at making change. Look, Dr. Joe Dispenza will tell you that you can change your DNA with your thoughts and how powerful that is. So look, there's a lot that we don't understand or can't explain in modern science yet. Just look at what we're able to prove in our lifetimes and imagine what we're going to be able to prove with the rest of our lifetimes. So I plan on living to 150.
I do believe, though, that frequency and vibration can help reverse that.
Absolutely. So here's the biggest thing that I can share, and the most, in my opinion, the most impactful aspect of vibroacoustic therapy, and that is its ability to reset your nervous system from sympathetic to parasympathetic. And why this is, in my opinion, one of the biggest issues that are plaguing us right now is because way too many of us are walking around in a triggered sympathetic nervous system response, a stressed and anxious nervous system response, fight or flight, fighting or running from something all the time that may or may not be there, that may or may not actually be threatening our lives at that particular time. If you're feeling stressed and anxious, you are by default in that sympathetic nervous system response. We are not designed to be in that response from the time we wake until the time we go to bed, day after day, week after week. We're just not. We're designed to be in parasympathetic, calm and relaxed most of the time. And we're designed to trigger into that when we need to fight or we need to run. And most of, let's be honest, most of us, including your listeners that are in this conversation right now, live in a pretty safe environment, lead in the water aside, relatively safe environment. I'm here in my house in Las Vegas. My daughter's playing outside. I don't need armed guards or armed security. My front door probably isn't even locked. Like, we're living in a good life. I don't really have too much threatening me. And yet I can just look at this and pull up one little email from my CPA, my accountant, that says something about my taxes and a form that I missed, and it was 4 years ago, and that triggered, this. And by the way, here with taxes and penalty, you now owe 5 digits. And boy, do I get triggered real fast. Right? And I might stay that fast until it resolves itself weeks from now. Right? I mean, just one environment that I just something recent that's happened. Right? So so many different things can trigger us. Now, is that life-threatening? No. Can I afford the penalty? Absolutely. It makes a dent. It's a pain, but it's not life-threatening. Okay. No. Far less life-threatening than, say, an email on Friday afternoon that your entire division is being cut and today's your last day and your livelihood was just threatened. You're now in a sympathetic nervous system response. Now, unfortunately, our bodies have not evolved for that type of threat on our well-being. Therefore, the same trigger happens to our sympathetic nervous system response as if somebody were threatening us with a knife or a gun, or literally threatening our lives or the lives of a loved one. That adrenaline kicks in, the cortisol kicks in, we become hyper-focused. The cortisol brings our focus to whatever's right in front of us very clearly and very fast. We're only really supposed to have a spike in cortisol in the beginning of the day to kick off our circadian rhythm. And then we're supposed to have a nice, easy fall off of cortisol as we drift into bed at the end of the night. And then overnight, cortisol peaks again, and we wake up, and we'll have a couple peaks and valleys, but generally speaking, we're not supposed to have that big peak. Cortisol kind of gets a bad rap, but that cortisol brings us hyper present and hyper aware. Additionally, you get adrenaline flowing through your blood, which sends power and strength, diverts power and energy from digestion, immunity, rational thinking, your reproductive organs. Your body literally goes all hands on deck. I need all energy in my biceps, triceps, back, major muscle groups, so I can fight or I can run. And again, when my CPA calls me and that triggers into that nervous system response, I don't need the adrenaline flowing through my blood. The cortisol, maybe if I'm a little sluggish in the afternoon, I want to perk up so I have that mental capacity. Okay. But it's taking away my rational thinking. It's turning off my digestion. Now it doesn't matter how good your diet is, how organic or local or got farmers market eggs, pasture raised, doesn't matter. If you're in a sympathetic nervous system response, you're not digesting your food. Digestion's turned off. So we have all these gut issues, right? Your rational thinking is turned off. You're making decisions, but you're not being rational. Your immune system's turned off. You're not fighting off bacteria or viruses because your life is being threatened. You need all hands on deck to deal with your life being threatened. And of course, your reproductive organs are turned off. I share those 4. There's many other things that happen, but I share those 4 because we have a society that's having a hard time getting pregnant and having babies and carrying babies to term. We have people with immune issues and autoimmune issues, and we have this virus that's been running around rampant, and everybody's freaking out. They're all fearful. They're all scared. They're all concerned. They're all in fight or flight. And of course, rational thinking being turned off. God knows what it's like to talk to somebody who's just being irrational. You're being irrational. Well, if you're in a sympathetic nervous system response, you're not being rational. by default.
Hey listeners, did you know that Sense of Soul has a network of Lightworkers affiliates program? Now you get to work with one of our inspiring guests, and I'd like to introduce you to one of our affiliates.
Hey listeners, this is Jennifer from The Soul Experience and host of the podcast, The Soul Traveler. I'm here to tell you about the most profound method of inner work that somebody can do while on a spiritual path. It's called quantum healing hypnosis. In a single session, you will revisit your past lives. Your subconscious will come forward to scan your body, looking for blocked emotions and health concerns. And then your higher self will answer the most important life questions you have. Your session is audio recorded, so you can play back all of the advice from your higher self. And you know you can trust the advice because it's coming from that part of you that is connected to Source. So if you're ready to take the next step on your spiritual journey, then visit me online at thesoulexperiences.com and be sure to mention that Shanna from Sense of Soul referred you.
You can also go to mysenseofsoul.com and in the menu, look for the network of Lightworkers. Now back to our amazing guest.
So one of the most powerful aspects of vibroacoustic therapy is that in a matter of about 15 minutes, we kick off the chemical cascades, trigger the chemical cascades associated with calm and relaxed, a parasympathetic nervous system response. So when I first got access to my technology, I was literally using it 3 times a day. I would feel myself get triggered, I'd get on the sound lounge. Feel myself get triggered, I'd get on the sound lounge. And you know, using our tech regularly isn't going to change the outside world. Those threats are still going to be there. Those experiences are still going to happen. It's part of this human experience that we've co-created together. What our technology is going to do is help you to change how you respond and react to that stimuli and to that happenstance. And when you're cool, calm, and collected, you know as well as I do that you react so much better to that change, to that shift, to that situation. You're just like, okay, well, cool, we're going to deal with it. Here's what we're going to do. Here's how we're going to do it. Okay, cool. No big deal. I'm just going to do this. I'm just going to pivot. We're just going to change this or that. And all of a sudden you're good to go. You just move on with your day. So our technology over time will help you to stay in that cool, calm, collected pocket longer and more sustained.
So you're actually creating like a new neural pathway.
Absolutely. We are retraining your nervous system. We are regulating your nervous system.
Just allowing yourself just to lay there on the bed and just be.
While it feels amazing, while you're listening to music that you love and you're just feeling fantastic. Yeah. It literally like when that vibration starts and there's an initial shock wave that comes through the body, not a physical shock wave, but there's a physical response that your body has to the vibration because it's new, because it's something that you're not used to, because your body is like, what's going on? And then it's the response to that stimuli that creates that parasympathetic nervous system response that calms and relaxes your body, the dopamine, the serotonin, right? All these feel-good chemicals that begin to flow through our body. It's really pure magic. And 7, 8, 10 minutes into your session, a formal session is 22 minutes. 7, 8, 10 minutes into your session, you are just, you might be sleeping, you might be dreaming, you might be astral projecting, you might be hanging out just thinking about how amazing it feels with a big smile on your face. You might not be there. Then all of a sudden the vibration stops and your body is still moving. You'll feel that sensation. You're like, what is going on? Let's go. I'm ready.
I was just thinking about this. Is there a bad frequency and vibration? The different hertz and there's different, vibes. I'm just going to use this as an example. It was I won't call them out specifically, but there was the concert. I heard someone at the concert saying that there was this high pitched sound, coming from the speaker and, it was annoying. And
it'll drive you bonkers. So there's something called, I'll answer your question. It's a fantastic question. So there's something you need to understand I want to share a couple things about sound and frequency in the human body. We are basically antennas for sound and frequency. We have in our skin something called a mechanoreceptor. We have 3 different kinds of mechanoreceptors, and they each tire at different time periods. Tire meaning they just get fatigued, right? Like anything else, like any other muscles or receptor in our body, they just get fatigued. So if we're presented with a constant frequency, eventually our mechanoreceptors can get fatigued, which you're just low on energy, right? You just run out of energy, literally, to run that part of your body. And then the signaling is disrupted to the brain because we're constantly interacting with this world. It's something like 4 billion stimuli per second that your brain is processing, and your conscious mind is aware of like 4 bits per second. The default mode network and the reticular activator system, and there's different aspects of the brain that filter out the outside world at different times. But generally speaking, there's a lot that we are presented with. Our bodies are constantly coming into what's called harmonic resonance with those things that we are presented with. So if you're at a concert, or the best example that I can have outside of that concert, and we'll touch on that in a second, is sometimes I do work. I take my iPad and I want to get out of the desk, so I go work in my kitchen. And I've got an older refrigerator, and the compressor on my refrigerator is pretty loud. It hums at 60 hertz. Okay, so if I'm sitting there and I'm not listening to anything, and there's no other noise, and it's just me in the kitchen and my fingers pounding on the keyboard because I don't type quietly, but I'm hearing that. And then all of a sudden the compressor will kick off, and I will realize just how quiet it really is, and just how much my body, you don't even recognize it anymore, but you become entrained to that. And at that concert, it's the same concept. If there's a high-pitched static or noise or a frequency that may or may not have been played on purpose, it's enough to drive you batty. Like literally, they've done research on this. It's enough to literally create a psychotic break. And people start to freak out. Like people need to, no doubt there were stampedes, right? If I was presented with something like that and I couldn't get out of there, and there were 1,000 people between me and the exit, I might be pushing my way to get out of there. I might be reaching. Now, I don't go anywhere without earplugs, so I would definitely have my earplugs in, right? But if you're in the middle of a crowd and there's people around you that don't have earplugs and they want to get out, and I could totally see how things could get real hairy real quick. Even as I'm explaining that, I'm thinking about being in a crowd like that with my wife and my daughter. My daughter's 3 years old. She's tiny. Not that she would ever be at a concert like that. So that's that scenario and how it impacts our physiology and something called harmonic resonance. And here's my perspective. I really don't believe there are any bad frequencies.
Okay.
All right. Now, at different times, there are different frequencies that can be played at different amplitudes that can absolutely disrupt how we feel. But that doesn't make the frequency a bad frequency, right? People ask me quite a bit because of the body of research that I study and the things that I do. They'll ask me questions like, hey, what's the best frequency for, all around best, And the reality is there is none. We're all different. We're all vibratory beings vibrating at different frequencies. Each organ has its own resonant frequency. The body has a resonant frequency. The mind has a resonant frequency. Your environment has a resonant frequency. The earth has this human resonance, which is beautiful and spectacular all by itself. We are all on different vibratory planes. And I teach therapists this as I'm talking about our technology and how to use our technology, is that every single person that comes in to seek, our technology is going to be at a different place. And we need to figure out as quickly as possible, either through questions or by physically feeling their energy, where they are. And we need to match their energy. We have to meet people where they are. Now, it's different when you're in a crowd of people and you have thousands of people around, let alone the energetic signature of thousands of people and this music being playing. Look, there is absolutely something to be said about subliminal messaging. There is absolutely something to be said. There are rabbit holes upon rabbit holes around rabbit holes to dive into of what
bell towers
marketing agencies are using, what you'll find on public radio and commercials. You will find an awful lot subliminally placed of what you pick up on and what you don't. One of my dear friends in Vegas, I haven't seen him in a long time, is a mentalist. And he's incredibly talented. Max Major, he was incredible. He was on America's Got Talent, crushed it. And what he can tell you, because we've had nice long conversations, I've actually had him doing hypnosis for me on my tech with a microphone through the technology. Absolutely blissful. Now, that's in the hands of somebody I trust. And hypnosis has to be, it's a very powerful modality. The human mind is very much susceptible to suggestion. And so is the body. So what we don't realize is that, what we pick up through the cochlea in our ears and changes in pressure and vibration and what we're hearing, we hear with our bodies. We hear with through vibration. And I mean, look, you could look up the brown note, right? This frequency that when played loud enough makes you go to the bathroom almost instantaneously.
You're shitting me. Literally.
Unintended, literally. Yeah.
Wow, I did not know that. That's insane.
Look, now you can't play that frequency out of my bed. So it's not like,
Yeah.
You're going to have that experience. It's a higher frequency, but
Oh, really?
again, when you find the resonant frequency of a glass and you play that loud enough, it will shatter the glass.
Right.
Right.
What's really interesting about just what you just said. So that was in a book I was reading. I was upstairs reading this book, and I was reading The Divine Spark Within by Daniel Morse. It's about Pistis Sophia, a little, about Sophia.
Yeah.
And so I'm reading it, and he has that in his book, and I'm reading that. And as I'm reading that, I hear a pop downstairs. So I go running downstairs, and have you ever seen one of those scalar energy balls that, like, because you're my generation, you go with the energy and it follows your hands. That thing exploded right as I was reading that shit. So I go downstairs, my kids are so far away from it. I didn't even know it had batteries in it. I've had it for like probably 30, 40 years. Wow. And I was like, what happened here? They're like, I don't know. There was glass everywhere.
They have a blowgun in their hands. Any of your kids have a blowgun, like a blow, like
Dude, no,
like blow darts or something?
My daughters were doing art at the dining room table. They weren't even in the same room. It was
wild. Look, there's a lot that happens in this. Look, we are what most people don't realize, and I'm happy to talk about it. Sense of soul. You're talking about the senses, the five senses.
Oh yeah.
How do we interact with the world around us? Through these five senses. And these five senses we already know are limited. We know we can't pick up on everything, right? Like, for example, eagles can see urine. Yeah. It appears as a bright yellow. They can see ultraviolet, right? Yes. Dogs can hear outside of what the human ear can hear. Like, we know that people can see infrared. I mean, there's technologies that we can use to see all of these things. So we know that there's things outside of what we sense through these five senses, and that we are limited to perceiving this reality through our five senses. And there's a bunch of stuff that we just don't know anything about.
Well, Craig, though, I think that one of the reasons why I have a lot of stuff that moves in my house. In fact, I saw something earlier, twice, actually, I saw things move in my house. But I live in an area that some people say there's a ley line that goes with our gas line right through my area. Mm-hmm. And so I don't know which side I live on the ley line. I don't know if that kind of thing matters, but, we have a lot of 5G here as well. But it does seem that there's some sort of, sometimes it could be residual energy from paranormal. Well, it's all paranormal if it's moving, but, I don't know where it came from. But I do believe, the energy that we can't see, there's a lot of talk about 5G and how it may affect us. They really don't know yet. But I was just actually holding my ear a few seconds ago because I had like this ringing. It really, just came out of nowhere in my ear, and then it went away. And talking about senses, you have that. I had a weird phantom smell for like a good year. It was so odd. And in fact, I had CAT scans and I had all these things, they went and looked in my nose cavity. And finally, my doctor, she's actually amazing. We're both clients of each other. And she said, you've been doing a lot of meditation. You're very, very open, all the things. I think you're smelling energy. So you wonder, well, I'm sure we won't be able to see urine one day, but as we evolve and we're, less conditioned, right? Limitations that we put on her.
Every morning in my meditation, I ask the universe to help me to see what I couldn't see yesterday, help me feel what I couldn't feel yesterday, and help me to be open to the things around me that I weren't aware of yesterday.
Yeah.
And part of that's energetic, part of that is physical. And indeed, I am picking up on different things every single day, more and more and more. I'm expanding my interaction with the universe around me. And those of us that are aware and consciously working towards that have the benefit of gaining more access and getting and seeing more of this world and tuning in deeper to what's happening around us. Very powerful.
I absolutely 100% believe that. When you think about some of these Marvel characters and stuff, I think that's what we'll evolve to eventually, to be honest with you. We're just kept so small by our conditions, over 2,000 years. Don't get me started. But
There's a lot to it. I want to come back and have another conversation. I want to do this again and again and again.
Oh, I tell you, I want one of your beds. And I was sitting here looking at it. I'm like, I mean, this meditation cushion, is that the one that you said that your 3-year-old would get on?
No, she's on the sound lounge and she's on the meditation cushion every week.
Oh, that's so cool. That's so amazing. So tell me about these products anyways. Sure. I mean, they're available for all to purchase or?
Absolutely. Yeah. So we're direct to consumer. Everything's bought through our website, iaminharmony.com. And on there, you'll find lots of information on the tech. Our sound lounges are kind of our Cadillac. We made that November of 2016. 2 years later, in 2018, we came out with our practitioner, which is designed to go on top of a massage table to augment hands-on body work with vibroacoustic or vibration therapy. And then
I'm a massage therapist.
Hey, there you go.
I know.
It's amazing. I'm lucky enough to get vibration. We're calling it In Harmony Vibrational Body Work. We're going to create our own modality soon enough. It's already in the works. So we'll have some pretty special stuff happening on that front. And then our meditation cushion is designed specifically for the form factor of sitting, legs crossed. Your root is elevated above your ankles and your knees. This gives you, it relieves a lot of the pressure and the stress so that more people can sit in that position and sit there comfortably. It's got a very ergonomic feel to it. The transducers are right underneath your root. So they're just sending vibration straight up your spine. It's enough to make your earlobes shake, your jaw and your teeth kind of chatter softly. It's really cool.
Yeah, it looks amazing. So wait, are you telling me that there's a modality that you guys actually...
We're developing it as we speak. So right now we just offer the In Harmony practitioner, which is for massage therapists. And we've got an entire fleet that use our tech as part of their body work. Look, a lot of folks have been doing body work for years. Their hands are tired. They know it's not going to last much longer. And they want to augment their work with sound, vibration, and other modalities. More and more wellness centers are popping up. More and more access to this technology is happening because people aren't making the investment themselves. So they'd much rather just pay for a session or increase what you can charge per session because you have the technology. So there's a lot of different ways that you can apply it.
I think that this is the way the world is going. I think that once people understand that they are energy, they are frequency, vibration, they're going to have to pay attention to that.
Indeed. Yeah. There's just, look, when you're walking around in a sympathetic nervous system response, you're really ill-equipped to handle the day-to-day trials and tribulations of this beautiful society that we've co-created.
Yeah.
And too many people are walking around in that sympathetic nervous system response, stressed and anxious and not feeling their best. We want to help more people feel their best.
Do you also have like audio?
We do. So we have an entire media company that makes and manufactures all of the music. We've got a director of content creation. He's a very talented musician. His name is Anthony Weiss. I go live with him on Instagram all the time, talking about new tracks as they're released. Right now, we're releasing a new track per week into our app. With your subscription, it's $8 a month or $80 a year. And with that subscription, you get access to the entire library. New tracks as they come out just appear. You don't have to update or anything like that. We make updates to the app if it's not working the way it's supposed to work, obviously. And so we're constantly evolving on that front too. And yeah, we invest a lot in the music. You don't need our tech to enjoy the music, by the way. So just a pair of AirPods and our app on your phone. It works on iOS and Android. And you can start to listen to our music meditations. They range in time from 2 minutes to 2 hours. And they cross lots of genres. We have a chakra balancing series that we put together. We have solfeggio frequencies that we put together. And then we also have our newest series is called The Journey of Life. And it's all about these emotional experiences that we have here during this human experience. Anxiety. The next one to release is clarity. We just released inspiration, abundance, grief, addiction. So we're kind of working through with specific frequencies and research into what can help in that situation with this intention. Really powerful. Getting great feedback.
You know, I do distance Reiki healing sessions, and I'm always just like, you know, just sending a link to, you know, some random YouTube. I would much rather.
So on our YouTube, In Harmony Interactive, we have our first 10 solfeggio frequency tracks uploaded with video content behind it. They're free. They're just up on our YouTube channel. They're 11-minute solfeggio frequency tracks. There's 10 of them from 174 up to 963. And you can totally stream that and offer that for free. And if you want to recommend to your clients to buy our app, that's fantastic too.
Yeah, I would love that. Well, thank you so much, Craig. I appreciate you coming on and spending time with me. Did you throw out your website yet?
I am inharmony.com. We're on all the socials at In Harmony Interactive. You can find us on Twitter and TikTok and Instagram and Facebook and YouTube and, all the places. I'm actually the one that's on the other side of the comments, and I'm on the other side of the DM. So if you want to send a message, you got a question, by all means, say hello. Super grateful for being here. Thank you so very much for having me. And I look forward to another conversation on and offline.
Yeah, that'd be great. All right. Well, nice to meet you.
Have a wonderful day.
Oh, nice. You're going to sing for me. It's all about sound and vibration, right?
Sound and vibration. It's so much love and so much gratitude for you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening to Sense of Soul podcast. And thanks to our special guests for joining me. If you want more of Sense of Soul, check out my website at www.mysenseofsoul.com, where you can work with me one-on-one or help support Sense of Soul podcast by donating to my coffee fund. Thanks for listening.